Hello, beautiful. Get your coffee. It's time for Coffee with Matilda, a journey to self. Today, I'm with beautiful Nathalie Delaine. She's French American. And Natalie, you're joining me from?
I am in South Florida, Miami,
Oh my God, that's
United States.
exciting. I'm
Mhm.
missing Florida. I'm missing
Very
America,
hot.
actually. And yeah, I'm in Paris right now. So yeah, I'm missing New York. I'm missing anywhere
The
in America
US.
right now. Yes. So I want to introduce you to the audience. You are a life coach that you help people to find their whys, which is very interesting, and the
Mhm.
purpose in their life. And me and you were trying to do some episodes, series of podcasts,
Yes.
how to be, and we are naming it to be the CEO of your life. So we want to figure out step by step how we can navigate ourselves to be the CEO of our own life.
Mhm.
Today, before starting this podcast, I friended you on Instagram and I saw a post that really moved me. And I thought maybe it's a sign and we have to talk about this today. And you agreed. So
Mhm.
today it marks 23 years since Natalie lost her father and her father took his own life. And I feel you will have a lot of emotions. The reason I'm understanding, obviously I cannot understand you fully because this hasn't happened to me directly, but I had a friend that took his own life last year, which I'm close friend to his wife, and there is not a day that maybe for a couple of seconds I think of him. I wasn't close to him, I'm close to the wife, but somehow he's in my day-to-day activity in a way. And okay, maybe if not every day, couple of times a week, I remember him.
Mhm.
And it's bothering me. I have still anger towards him because I see how much he affected my girlfriend's life. Um, there is a peace in it. I feel happy about it sometimes. Um, I feel like it was his own life, so he had the choice to do whatever he wanted. And if he felt like it, then that's good to go. But then no, again, I'm angry at him, so I'm kind of confused. And when I
Mhm.
saw the post, I was like, oh my God, maybe if we share some insights, and since you're a life coach, I'm sure maybe you had clients like this, maybe we can go over how these emotions are and how life is for someone that is affected very deeply about this event.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we'll talk about our episodes and how we want to create this series together. So the I'm sure this episode will be emotional, but I'm sure also it can be um, encouraging as well. Because we're talking about life, and life is so precious, and I love life, and I cannot imagine taking my own life. I can't. I cannot even imagine harming myself. I cannot even wax, let alone do something else. So I cannot do anything. I'm like, I cannot harm my body. But yeah, tell us. First, a little bit, tell us
Sure.
who you are.
Sure. Firstly, I want to say thank you for inviting me here to Coffee with Matilda. I feel honored. Secondly, I want to
Natalie.
say sorry for the loss of your friends, and
Mm,
I know it's not easy. So thank you for sharing that. A little bit about me. So I am a life coach. It's something that I've been doing for several years, probably a few decades,
mhm,
because I've always been someone people come to for help or advice, or they just tell me their whole life story, or I have a question, or I have an idea. Can I run it by you? Or do you have 5 minutes? And it ends up being an hour on the phone. So in reality, it's been a good amount of time that I've been coaching people on what feels right for them. And now officially I am a life coach. I love helping people find their why. Why are they here? Why are they working in that job? Why are they in that relationship? Why are their goals not coming to fruition? Why, the big question of the life of why. It's one of my favorite passions to help others get there. And I started coaching, and now it's something that I do almost on a daily basis, and it feels so good. And all of us are different. All humans are different. We all have different goals and different whys. And the best part about all of this and what I do is that everybody already has whatever they need inside of them. You have it inside of you. I have it inside of me. She, he, we all have it. It's just sometimes it gets dirty and you can't really see it, or it's a little cloudy and you gotta like brush
Mhm.
it off a little bit, and then you see your energy. But we all already have everything we need to get to our why.
That's amazing because I want to find my why. A lot of times I question myself. And actually, imagine this, you are half French and half American. And today I'm in France talking to you. And today is the day that you lost your dad.
Mhm.
And it's our first time collaborating. Isn't that interesting?
It's more than interesting.
It's like a
Sometimes the
sign.
universe.
The universe
I was gonna say
says,
the
let's
universe. The
go.
universe knows how to make things happen. So we found each other, and here we are. And yes, today is a very special, deep day for me.
So, how would you like to talk about it?
Well, I will start a little bit at the beginning. My
Whenever
mother.
you feel like it's too much, it's okay to not talk about
Sure,
it. So feel
sure,
free, however you feel like it.
sure, no problem. I will start with suicide is never an easy topic. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling a little bit sensitive, maybe wait for a day that you're feeling a little bit stronger within yourself. Um, to get started, my father is an immigrant. He came to the United States. He met my mom. They fell in love. They had 3 kids, so there's 3 of us. And we had the house with the dog and working family and
American
coming up.
dream.
American dream, right? We were in school, we did sports, we did activities, they were working, we came home, we had dinner, do homework. It was nice and also tough, especially for my father. And for years and years, sometimes he would feel great, sometimes he would feel not so great, and the way it came out for him was anger. His way of manifesting him not feeling well came out in anger. We were all a little bit too young to fully understand what that meant, but my father was suffering from depression, from
Mhm.
deep depressions. My father was a super, super kind person, so kind that his heart was so open, and I feel like he would suffer from other people's suffering, right? Not just his own. Like he would take on the neighbor's problem, or his aunt's problem in the islands, and then so he would take all that on, and it's too much for one person
Mhm.
to feel so many things. And he suffered from depression, which ultimately led to life being very difficult and too much. It was too much for him, and he chose to leave this earth by suicide.
You mentioned something very important, that he was very kind and he was trying to help and listen to everyone's problem. I
Mhm.
feel like maybe you have that kind of a attribute too, like to listen and try to help other people. But one thing that maybe you do for yourself is you take care of you.
Mhm.
You won't get to that point as well. So other people that are listening, and there are especially parents, mothers, that are constantly taking care of other people, and the last person is them, is
Mhm.
dangerous, because then you're going to go to depression and you're not going to be the best version for yourself and for others. So maybe self-care can help. Do you think, if, for example, someone in that position would have done more self-care, would have helped him.
100%. 100%. And self-care is good for a million reasons, right? And it's important, just like you said, sometimes adults, mothers, fathers, parents, even ourselves, we forget. We forget that we have needs. Our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our hearts, they all have needs. And when those needs aren't met repetitively, not being met, we suffer. We have a dis-ease within our body, which can manifest into being overweight, or we get chronic headaches, or we're not sleeping, right? So self-care is an important tool, and I think just lifestyle, because if you don't take care of yourself, no, who else will? Right? Yes, when you're a child, your parents do, but at a certain point, we grow up, and if you don't do it, who else will take care of you?
That's very nice, Natalie, what you're saying, because my podcast is about self-love, self-care, like everything starts with you and ends with you. And when we have our series, I'm sure we're gonna go very deep in this topic, but it's very important. And I'm reminding myself every day, and I'm telling whoever that has any problems, I'm like, but do you connect with yourself? Do you understand your needs, who you are, what
Mm-hmm.
you need? Is this because your child is saying that you have to do, but does it really go with your body? Does it really go with your emotions? So it's very deep. And do you, I mean, as a life coach, what do you think? How can someone integrate that part in their daily routine or in their daily life in general?
Mm-hmm. So for me, mindfulness or being aware, right? Everything starts with mindfulness and being aware. Once you take a moment, and it can be one moment, to listen to yourself, to
Mm-hmm.
listen to your heart, to listen to your mind, well, that gets tricky, but to listen to yourself. We humans, especially now, well, not so much with COVID, but we're always going. We're always going, and this is done, this, do that, do this, run here, pick up this, drive there. That's great. And we get to take a moment. When we take a moment for ourselves, with your eyes closed, with your eyes open, it doesn't matter. You become mindful. When you become mindful, it means going within and not necessarily always listening to your thoughts, because thoughts can be your ego's way of tricking you. But it means going within. It
Mm-hmm.
can be as simple as, you know what, I'm really thirsty. I haven't had any water today. Let me take a break and go get some water. And then you're hydrating your body, which is a physical need. It can be, my eyes have been twitching and twitching and twitching. Oh, I just realized I've been on the computer for 3 hours straight. Let me take a pause and go walk and look outside. And you're taking care of your body. Like, taking care of yourself starts with mindfulness. When we become aware of what our needs are,
Mm-hmm.
then the rest becomes kind of easier, because then you have a path. When we don't know what our needs are, and in a lot of times in life, we have the dog to take care of, your sister, your daughter, the mom called, the bills have to be paid, right? All of that life, which is beautiful, sometimes we don't take those moments, and those moments are everything. So that's how I say start. Starts with awareness, so that you can build a path towards more, towards creating all the things that you need, because
Mm-hmm.
those needs are important.
Amazing awareness. Very nice tip.
Awareness.
So let's go back to so what happened? I mean, how did you digest this? This is not something
Uh,
that you
yeah,
clearly digest.
it's not an easy thing to digest. I was younger. I was 19 when this happened. And at that time, I felt like an adult. But now looking back, I realized I wasn't an adult yet, right? I was still very young and naive. And
And pure.
I'm sorry?
And pure.
And pure, yes. Like, I was just like, oh, just beginning, right, of life. And this happened, and I reacted with anger. Anger was there right away. Anger stayed. Anger was the first thing out of my mouth, to my family, to anybody. And the anger forced me to become isolated and go within, but in a negative way, because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't expressing what was actually wrong. I wasn't expressing my needs. I was just shutting down and being in this cave of anger, which over time can be very harmful. Um, the anger stopped me from a lot of things. I didn't cry over my
Oh,
dad for 7 years. And not until 7 years after he died is when I started to cry. Like, I think being the eldest in my family and having a little bit more responsibilities, I just, the anger kind of made me a little bit stronger to just push and do things, but I was suffering inside. So 7 years later, after he passed, I started to cry and then I didn't stop.
mom.
And then that's at that point, my friends and my family were like, Natalie, you need help. And then I sought help. I looked for help, and then I did some therapy, which I was very resistant to. I was very resistant to. And then I found that it was a really good outlet because I was expressing all the things that my anger wasn't letting me express.
Hmm.
We were getting to the real root of what was going on, because anger is an emotion, but it's like a face value emotion. Anger is usually covering other things that are much deeper. So therapy helped me immensely because I was letting out some of those things that were had no outlet. So that's one way that I started, and it helped.
Hmm.
And then the journey becomes really interesting, but I don't know how far you want me to go into the journey.
Yeah. So let tell the audience as well. So really to look for therapy, because they might be angry and they might not think that, oh, they need this because they didn't do something wrong. I think that's one of the reasons maybe people might reject therapy, is because they're like, oh, I haven't done anything wrong. Why should I go for it? Somebody else did something wrong to me, kind of a deal. But I think it's important to talk with someone that it's not affected the same pain, like it's not your family members, and they can give you professional opinion, or professionally they can guide you to navigate maybe your pain and somehow be okay with that pain, because you cannot change that fact, what happened, you know.
And you mentioned something really important, pain. So when something like this happens and you lose someone suddenly, most times it's suddenly, you're not aware, right? And this happens, someone takes their life. Everyone experiences pain very differently,
Mm.
very differently. Like for me, I didn't cry, but my one of my siblings cried every moment from the moment she found out, but for like weeks. So pain manifests very differently in everybody.
Mm.
And grief manifests very differently with everyone. And because I was 19 and I didn't even fully understand what grief was until I started going to therapy, but grief is one of the hardest parts about dealing with someone that passes. And to me, a little bit more difficult when it's someone that chose to leave, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily be going through the grieving process if that person decided to stay here with you, but they left. So grief is a whole nother topic, and a lot of people know about the 5 stages of grief. I'm not going to get into that. It's super amazing, but you should read about it because it's a real thing. What I want to say about grief is that allow yourself to grieve the way you feel it, right? Like everyone will say, "Oh, you should just cry and get over it," or "It's been a month, you should feel better by now," or "You know what? Why don't you just read a book and then it'll be fine." It, that does not work. Everyone's grieving process is extremely different. So what I want to offer to everyone listening is that your process will be your process. Feel all the things that come up and let yourself feel them. If you're feeling angry, feel angry. Get it out there. Get angry. Feel it. Feel it. Feel it. If you're feeling really sad, get sad. Try to flow through the things that are coming and don't stop them, because it's better when we let them process through our bodies, because eventually it comes out. And that process is a great process of grieving. And there's no right or wrong way of grieving, right? Some people may argue that, but I strongly feel that the grieving process is completely different. Pain is felt differently by everyone. So That was a great thing that you mentioned that. I wanted to throw that out there.
Good, but listen, how was so did you know this thing can happen? Like, was he talking about I
No.
wanna and it just
So
happened accidentally?
no, actually, so he started to my parents decided to separate, and
Mm,
then things started to change a little bit. They weren't happy in the marriage, and it was just life stress and
yeah.
things. And that's when he moved into another place. He moved out of our house, and from then on, he really started to feel, I guess, sad and depressed and disconnected to his family. And a lot of those things, I'm not saying it's the cause, I'm just saying it's part of the things that started to happen to him. And instead of him speaking out or asking for help or asking for support or expressing his need, right? He had a need of wanting to be with his family more often or his children more often, but that wasn't being expressed again. So going back to the beginning, which is we get to be mindful and listen to our needs. He had a lot of needs that were not being met, and with the depression, that just brings you down really low. um, he started to eat poorly, he wasn't sleeping, like, so we did notice some of those signs. um, but my father was really good at just always saying, I'm okay, and then immediately try to help you or try to go back to helping other people because that's what he was so good at, right? So
Maybe he felt good by being the hero of other people.
mhm,
So
mhm,
that heroism, I think there's a thing in personality that they feel good when they do things for other people.
mhm,
And also, hearing this story made me think there's a lot of men. I think the percentage of men doing suicide is higher than women.
mhm,
And I think because women, I'm just thinking, because they don't have the ego issue that much, that men, they are more likely to go and get help. Whereas men, they might feel not masculine enough if they go and ask, or they don't like that vulnerability.
mhm.
um, and sometimes if you're vulnerable, you can get help. And but unfortunately, especially at that age and time, I think men right now, our age, are different, but our father's age,
Past generations
past
definitely saw,
generation.
past generations, in my experience of the male archetype, the male of a family, saw vulnerability as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just a weakness. That's it. Close it. Don't show it. Put it in a corner. Hide it. And like you say, in today's world, it's a little bit different. People are learning that being vulnerable means that you're sharing, you're opening,
You're
you're being
connected.
honest, you're connecting, you're being authentic, you're sharing a deep part of you which connects with a deep part of somebody else. And how beautiful is that? However, in the past, I agree with you that showing that vulnerability was a no, 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 no. Don't do that. Don't cry. You're okay. Everything's fine. And everything wasn't fine.
And
And
I think
that's
I'm also an immigrant. I was living in America, so I was immigrant. I'm Armenian from Iran. Go figure. So I was an immigrant there, and I think as an immigrant, you feel bad to show a lot of vulnerability as far as, oh,
mm,
life is difficult. Especially, I'm sure on top of it, you're a father, you have children, you constantly have to provide and be the strong man. And can cause a lot different layers of responsibility that um, unfortunately, if it's not, your needs are not met, everyone does different things. Some people go to
mm,
addiction in an older age. They uh, they start the habit of addiction in something. Alcoholism in men are very high because of this, I think. They are afraid of failures, and you know lot of responsibility. We put a lot of responsibility in ourselves. We need to do this, we need to provide, we need to, and sometimes we need to just check and see how are we doing. Okay.
yes. So yeah, going right back to the mindfulness, right? Like taking a moment for ourselves and checking in. And as I offer this to my clients, but I also do it for myself. I sometimes will say, okay, little Natalie, talking to the inner child inside of me, what's going on? I notice the last few days I've been very short-tempered, just snipping at people.
Mm.
And then I realize and I take a moment and I reflect and I'm like, okay, this isn't coming from me, this is coming from something deeper. Okay, little Nat, what's going on in there? What do you need? And it seems funny, it may seem funny to people, but I promise you the things that come out of that, only good comes out of that,
I'm getting
right?
emotional to hug little Matilda.
Oh, and then it's also a good thing. So there's also a practice of physically hugging yourself, and you say, little, I've named my little girl, but little Matilda, everything's okay. I love you. I choose you. Because we've all had childhoods and things happen in childhood
Mhm.
and those things stay with us, right? And my father didn't, and it's not just him, right? Like the world is shifting. We are shifting into a more mindful self-care, self-love. How do you be the best version of yourself now? 23 plus years ago, that wasn't so much the thing that people
Mhm.
talked about or sought out, or it wasn't. And mental illness, again, I can't stress this, mental illness always gets pushed under the rug, like, oh, just take some medicine and you'll be fine, right? Like it, mental illness is a serious disease that affects thousands of Americans and people worldwide, but in America the suicide rates are pretty high because I don't feel like there's enough attention being spread into the mental illness aspect of it. And illness, like most illnesses, can be cured, and if it's not being cured, it can be managed, right? Like there's always a
Mhm.
way, and the biggest thing that still hurts me a little bit is that there were ways back then too. It's just I wasn't aware of them, my father wasn't aware of them, and sometimes I just want to go in a little time machine and go back and say, hey, guess what? We can do this. Or and sadly, I can't do that for my father, but what can I do now? Now I coach people and I help people and I spread this message of there is always help. And it doesn't have to be, there's not one way of receiving help. There's so many ways of getting support. And so now I try to do that as much as I can.
You know, Natalie, it's a beautiful way that you're saying it. And I think when you start honoring yourself, when you start really, I mean, who is more valuable than Matilda for Matilda? No one else. I mean, everyone can go, and then I'm gonna be alone till end of the end. It's gonna be Matilda with Matilda. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Last
Even if
breath.
yeah, so might as well take care of Matilda very well because the rest of the people might not be there, no, might be somewhere else in the world, and I'm always next to Matilda, so I should take care of my soul because I have a podcast about a man with four wives, and it's a Tibetan story, and it tells you how different women are reacting. But what it's saying is if we have all these four wives in ourselves, and if we cannot love our soul, pamper our soul, take care of our
Mm.
soul, and
Mm-hmm.
understand exactly what our needs are, so we can become a better version for ourselves and for others. Lots
Mm-hmm.
of things can go wrong. Um, and I'm in this journey of self-love. I don't
Beautiful
know how
thing.
much I don't know how much I can love myself more, but I know I can love myself much more because I
There's
haven't
always
exactly I haven't reached my goals. And I'm thinking one of the reasons I haven't reached my goals in life is maybe because I don't have the right discipline for myself. And really, discipline is loving yourself enough to put yourself in certain situations so you can reach to your goals. So it's kind of my new mindset, and I'm trying to, through this podcast, share people about self-love and self-care and reach my own goals too. So,
Well, I think you're doing your fantastic job. And I would like to invite you to reframe what you said. You said, I haven't reached my goals. How about every time you think that you say, I haven't reached my goals yet,
yeah.
right? Like, yet until now, but tomorrow it's another day, and the next day, and the next day. And because you're on this beautiful journey of loving yourself, and I promise you there's always more, right? Like, put more into yourself, do it, because Matilda will only be with Matilda until the end of days. And the better version of yourself, the better version, like you mentioned, for other people and eventually for the world. And we all know that right now the world needs as much love as possible. And
Exactly.
look at what you're doing. You're bringing people, look, you brought us together. It's keep going. You haven't reached your goals yet. So think about it that way.
Yes, yes. So listen, tell me a little bit, maybe like maybe 5 more minutes of to
Sure.
see what happened afterwards. How did you
Sure.
get better? Because we want
Okay,
people
yeah.
to understand, how they can navigate their life if
Mm-hmm.
they went through the same journey as yours,
Mm-hmm.
losing someone that they really love like that. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then maybe people would like to connect with you
Oh my God, I would
um,
love that.
to see how they can go forward with that.
So that anger that I spoke about
Hmm.
didn't leave very quickly. That anger stayed with me. So if it's been 23 years, let's say the anger has been there for 18, 19 years. I ran. The
And
anger
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 of.
of my father, like in the way I saw it was he left me, he left us. Why would you do that
Hmm.
when I needed you? I needed you here. I want you here. I want to share
Yeah.
life with you. I want to do adventures. I want to talk to you. Something as simple as talking to you, right? Like so I was angry that I could no longer do any of those things because
Hmm.
he chose to leave. So that anger stayed with me. Woo, and it forced me to run instead of doing what I do now and I talk about mindfulness, instead of looking inside, I went the opposite and I was just running. I went to live in Belgium for a little bit. I went to live in Spain for a good while. I went to live in South Korea.
Oh,
I
that's
changed
exciting.
jobs. I was changing jobs here and there. So I was
Lovers?
running.
Were you changing lovers too?
That's a whole nother topic. But
That's juicy
yes,
stuff.
the juicy stuff is always the good stuff. The answer is yes. So I was running from everything when really the thing that I was running most from was myself and my pain,
Mm,
which you
yeah.
mentioned. And one day I realized that. I realized I can't recall the exact thing, but one day I was just like, no more running. And I started taking some courses. I started taking courses about how to transform my life
Hmm.
because I realized that I wasn't happy, that I was a little bit depressed at times, that I was angry all the time. I'm also an ex New Yorker and I lived there for 30 plus years. And so, right, like in New York, you're just go, 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 go. And I had that beautiful wall up like, stay away, don't talk to me, don't look at me. I'm doing my thing, you do your thing. But that fed my anger.
Mm.
All of that fed that beast that was growing inside of me until that day I started taking courses and I started to look inside. It was it was one of the most difficult things because I didn't want to. I didn't want to look at the pain. I didn't want to feel the pain again. I didn't want to think about those things again. And it's not easy.
Mm.
But I decided that I wanted more. I wanted a better life. I wanted something else. I wanted something other than what was going on. I wanted to become the CEO of my own life. I didn't want to be running from things and bouncing around. And I started taking these courses and a little bit of talk therapy too. Um, and then I just my spirituality opened also. I started to become closer to God, the universe, source, whatever. Everyone has different names, but that beautiful energy of pure love, I became closer to that. And I looked in the mirror. I looked in the mirror, I looked inside, and I looked at that pain. And several years of that work, several years. And it's not easy work. And I'm saying this now for everyone listening. When you choose to do this, you choose to do this, because once you start, you can't just say, "Oh no, I don't want to see that anymore." No, like
Not
once you
today.
start, no, yeah, not today. I don't want to. This work is life work.
Mm.
So it's a lot of up and down. And I was on that train roller coaster. It was up and down. And there was weeks that I was like, "Oh, I feel so good. I feel so good." And then something happened, and I would just come right back down and feel lonely, depressed, sad, anger. Again, my favorite. Um, but I stuck through it, Matilda. I worked and I worked and I worked and I cried and I talked and I write. I've been writing since I was a child. So it's one of my therapies.
Mm.
I did all of the tools that I offer to my clients, and not for this topic, but for several topics, right? Like I lived and breathed all the things that made me come to this point where I am now, where I don't feel that guilt. And with suicide, people feel guilt, and it's like a
Mm.
big, heavy rock on top of you. I've let that go. The anger, I've let that go. The sadness, of course, comes up as you see. I get emotional, but
That's
I let it.
natural. Yeah.
It is. I let it come up. I feel it, and I let it go through me. I don't hold on to it. And no, I've become a lot more fluid with life. Like I
Mm.
flow with life, and now I feel
I want to
good.
be flow with life.
Come flow with me. Come vibe with me. So nVibe Tribe is the name of my coaching company, and
Uh-huh.
so I like to say, come and vibe with me, right? Like let's vibe together. Let's raise this up, and that's to answer your question. That's what I did, and it was several years. And not to say that some days I still don't feel good. Of course, I'm human. However, do I now have the tools to address my needs? Yes. Instead of running to the next exotic place, no. I listen to my needs. I listen to and hear, and that makes all the difference.
Amazing. What if, like, I mean, again, because I haven't been in your situation, so I don't know if this is even a logical concept to share. What if when somebody that is going through that and they haven't worked the work of healing, if they feel like their loved one didn't want to be here anymore, and you love them so much that you have to let them go, by you keeping them or thinking about them, that why they did that is because of your selfish reasons, and if you really love them, that's what they chosen. Do you think that can help, that kind of an attitude? Or is it even possible someone that goes through that pain to even think in that these terms?
Great question. And very difficult to answer, because remember how I mentioned everyone experiences pain
Mm-hmm.
differently and grief differently. So it's tricky. For some people, that may very well work, and then they realize, oh wait, I do love them, and this is what they choose. Okay, I let that go. But for some people, hearing the words "let go" of a loved one will cause disruption inside of them. So it's possible. It's not something that I would recommend to everyone. What I really recommend is the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, acceptance. Ooh, I forgot them. So we get to revisit this, but going through those 5 stages, and they're not in sequential order. And you can go to stage 1 and then go to stage 3 and then come back to 2 and go to 3. That is so
I
normal.
think one of them is depression, yeah,
Depression, yes. I
and
go.
denial
Yeah.
and
Why do I?
anger
I will have to look this up.
and
That's what it's called.
acceptance. Yeah,
But allowing yourself to go through those, because only until after you're in a comfortable place with your grieving can you then think differently.
yeah,
You've shifted a little bit. When you're in the grieving process and someone tells you to let it go, I would have been like, yeah, I'm gonna double punch you. Like, I'm not letting go of anything. This is my father. Like, right? Like, no, right? Like, uh, because if I'm still in
yeah,
grieving mode and
of
someone
course.
says that, I'm gonna be like, oh, what do you mean? So it's tricky. I understand where you're coming from. It once the person fully delves into the grieving process, then they can shift a little bit. But it's a little tricky, that one.
You know, because why I even came up with this, I had a friend that was losing her mother, and it was very painful to see this process. But at the end, like I mean, the concept was if she gonna be better in a different world than us, then you have to love them so much to not be in this world because maybe this world is too much for them. It's painful for them.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. And then you feel like by wanting to keep them here is because kind of you're selfish. You want them for you.
Mhm.
But reality is you need to let them go to have their own soul journey that they're supposed to have. I don't know. I mean,
I
I'm
100% I hear you, especially because I'm a true believer of the Buddhist principle of no attachment, right? However, that's now. After I've gone through all of that work, now I'm choosing those things. So for me now, I can easily say I have let a lot of those pains and things go. Did I let go of my father? Of course not. But did I let go of some of those heavy things that were weighing me down? 100%. And that's why I feel free. And that's why I can talk to you about
yeah,
this. However, there's no way I would have been able to understand the concept of no attachment and then apply that concept of no attachment to my life without having gone through all the hurt, all the grief. So I totally agree with that principle, but that person has to get there on their own. Right? Like
yeah,
we can't, and so I was saying, like you can't force grief. It some people 1 year, some people never, some people 20 years. Like you grief is its own process.
process.
And then afterwards, of course, like I if someone told me the no attachments, I would have laughed. Like I would have laughed. But right now, most days I live my life with no expectations and no attachments, and that's what makes me so free, and that's what makes me so
Different.
ready, right? Like ready for anything because right now I'm living right now in this moment, and why would I have an attachment to this moment? Because in another moment from now, this is over. So now I understand those concepts because I've done that work.
Amazing, Natalie. I think today we're honoring your father, and what I think it's amazing, and I'm sure your father can see you, and he's
Hmm.
around you always.
Thank you.
And what a beautiful way of honoring him when he sees he has this beautiful woman, beautiful daughter that has this kind of a wisdom, and kind of she forgave him for what he has done because that pain was very big
Mhm.
and it was very deep. But you chose to go within and digest that as best as you could and be this beautiful woman. I think you should love yourself double for what you've been through, what was the cards of life for you, and what how you dealt with it and how who you are right now. It's amazing. I hope people that are listening, they understand whatever situation they have, they can overcome. And honestly, your story is an amazing comeback story, because if you didn't do the work that you did for you, you couldn't shine, help other people, have a beautiful life for yourself, and you have this beautiful energy around you. I mean, it's amazing. We are even
Mhm.
talking about this, and I'm actually enjoying my conversation. We're talking about from a very sad topic, but honestly, it's sad topic, but has a lot of energy, a positive energy to it, because what you've done with that, it's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
If
Thank you.
I had
Thank
a
you.
daughter, I want to have a daughter like, and if I've done,
Oh my
I want
goodness.
to have
Now I'm
daughter
gonna
like
cry all over again. No more crying. No. That is so beautiful, and I know
you.
we want to wrap up, but really quickly, you said the one of the last most important pieces about how to work with losing someone to suicide, and that's forgiveness. Right? So that's like, for me, it was the last piece that was like, it was kind of like the cap on top of like the hurt and the anger, and this little last piece was the forgiveness, but this little last piece was the most difficult to do. So we
Do
can
you think,
definitely dive into that more, but when
um,
you,
do you think it's the most, how do you try to forgive? Is it,
mm, ooh, this is a tough one because I'm human and I still struggle with this. And I chose to forgive my father when I realized that I had no control over what happened to him, right? It was his path, it was his life, and he did the best that he could. That was his best, and he gave it his best. And I still have my father inside of me, and I still have his memories, and I still have his energy, and I still have his legs, because I look like my mom, but I have his legs, right? Like, he's still here,
yeah,
and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I had a father that was so sensitive and so, he had a huge heart. Right? It's a beautiful thing. And maybe it was a little bit too big, and it was heavy for him, but it was, what a beautiful lesson, right? Like, I want a big heart too. I want to live. I want to have good energy. Like you say, I want to help others have good energy. Like, I now I see it all as a lesson. The cards that I was dealt gave me a lesson, gave me this rainbow at the end.
and the lesson, you think what it is?
Ooh, the lesson for me was be here now. And by that
Amazing.
I mean present. Be in this moment. Be present. We have no control. Humans have no control. Our egos tell us all the time we can control things. So not a true story, which definitely we can get into that one day, but we have no control, right? So when you let go of expectations and you're fully present in the moment, then it's like boundless opportunity. When you're fully in this right now, there's boundless opportunity, and that lesson was my biggest lesson, that when I am present, life is precious. Life is precious. So because life is precious, how do I get the most juice out of it, right? In like the good way. And that's being present. Be here now.
Amazing. Be here now. Actually, I feel like whenever I'm upset or depressed, is because I'm not present
Mm-hmm.
100%
You're
at that
mm-hmm.
second. And
You're
when I,
probably holding on to something in the past
yeah,
that happened, or you're anxious and worried about something in the
exactly.
future. But
And the
when you're
joy,
here,
the joy goes, that zest goes from my life. And when I'm truly present with the pain, with the happiness, with the joy, I feel lively, I feel alive, I feel like, oh my God, Matilda, I love life. But when I check out for a couple of hours, I'm somewhere else in the past or in the future, then lots of ugly things happens, and I don't enjoy my life as it should be. And one moment, one important point you just mentioned, saying you chose to forgive him. I think in any area in your life, if you are upset of someone or you're hurt so much, so heavy like this, I think you only can do to choose to forgive, because that's what you have control over.
100%.
Natalie, this was not in a plan, but I saw this on
That's so
Instagram today.
beautiful.
But then everything I think happened in a interesting way. And your father is French, and
Mhm.
I'm reading about your father is from where?
Martinique in the French
Martinique.
West Indies. It's a beautiful island.
And the funny part and the interesting part is I'm reading what's her name? Isabel?
Josephine.
Josephine, sorry, I'm even forgetting what book I'm reading. And I'm fascinated by her. I'm through half of it. It's been 2 days reading it. And I was thinking, oh, where is, I mean, I'm sorry, I guess my geography is not very good. And I was thinking, where is this Martinique? I never seen anyone from there. And then here we are today, and we're honoring your dad from there. What a beautiful moment. Now I'm gonna continue my book, and I will think of my dad from that same area, because it
Good.
mentions that in this book they mention a lot Martinique and what had happened to her and how what kind of a place it was. Beautiful. Uh,
All of this has been beautiful. Your energy, our conversation, your book, all of it. All of it.
yes. So we're gonna see each other next week, and we're gonna
Yay.
start to be our CEOs of our life.
Woohoo! I'm ready. I'm ready. Ready to get more people out there having everything they want. It's possible.
Exactly.
It's possible.
Exactly. Thank you, Natalie, for
You're welcome. Oh, it's my pleasure.
sharing us this beautiful moment, remembering your dad. And I wanna dedicate this episode to my friend, my girlfriend in New York, that she lost her husband, which is my friend as well, I guess. And honoring your dad and the lessons that we learned from you, that you went through this hard path in life and it gave you some beautiful lessons. And I'm happy that you learned the lessons. And I'm sure these lessons will help you so much in your life.
And I
And
continue to learn them, right? Again, like I
mhm.
will keep saying this, I am human. Like sometimes things keep happening because I haven't fully learned the lesson. So I am
And you're
open.
helping other people. And now you're
It's
gonna help.
amazing. And
Yes,
I learn from my clients too, like the lessons that I give them and the topics that come out. I'm like, oh my goodness, this happened to me last week. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like lessons I am fully alive in you. I don't know how I know because I'm in a constant state of learning. What beautiful way to be alive. Like it's a blessing.
amazing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Natalie.
Thank
And
you.
next
Until
week
next time.
we are
Yeah.
starting our episodes together.
Wonderful.
Till
Have
next
a good
time.
night, good day, good morning, wherever you are.
Ciao, guys.